Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. So welcome, everyone. You know, every second Tuesday, second Friday, and third Monday, we get to chat with members who are part of the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writer Association, which we call IFWTWA. And today I'm excited because we have Valerie Fortney-Schneider joining us. She's a freelance food and travel writer. She was based out of New Mexico, and now she lives in the hillside of Italy. Italy. I don't know why I went Italia. You can go to her website.com. She's an author. Both her and her husband are. And not only do they know about Italy and the small communities that aren't really the main tourist spots, right? She goes off the beaten path into villages. Her and her husband, Brian, also help people trace their ancestral roots in Italia. I'm in Italia. Am I allowed to say that?
That's good. That's perfect. Yes.
I suddenly went to I'm on the hillsides of Italia. Yeah.
You're picturing the place. That's good.
Yeah, well, you sent a photo. I'm like, oh, that looks just amazing. And it just seems like the sense of community from all the interviews we've done in the past, and then just looking at what you've been writing about, it seems like community is everything in Italy.
It is. Community is such a big part of the culture. It's a big part of what makes it Italia. So, so it,
Uh-huh.
we're both going to say Italia. Um, and I think it's really what makes it perfect for travelers and for expats, because if you're not a part of the community, it's just so much harder. It's who you know here. Everything gets done and everything's enjoyed by who you know. And that's really what's made our experience here, even when we were traveling to Italy before we moved here, getting to know Italians and have them sort of befriend us, made us just really feel a part of the culture. And that really helps you, I think, understand, feel more in depth kind of experience, even for if you're just traveling through Italy, and certainly if you're living here, to be embraced by the people are in the town where you live. Just makes everything so much easier.
What led you to go from New Mexico? Where were you in New Mexico?
So we were outside of Albuquerque in a town, a village called Corrales, in
Yeah,
Rio
yeah.
Grande. So between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, basically, but north of
Nice.
Albuquerque, closer. And loved New Mexico, but it had changed in the 20 years we were there. It became Albuquerque doubled in size in the 20
Yeah.
years we were there, and it just became a different city than the one that we had picked. Grew up in Ohio, and my husband's job was very stressful, and he needed a change. And so we thought, let's take a year sabbatical. We've been traveling to Italy. We fell in love with it. Let's just go spend a year in Italy and then come back and decide what we want to do.
You
And
got bitten by the
that
bug.
year turned into 3 years. And we went back to the States for 1 year and said, yeah, this isn't going to work anymore after being in Italy. So in the meantime, I had researched my ancestors, my grandmother's side, and found the village that her family came from. She was born in the US, but her brothers were born here in Italy, in Basilicata, the region where we live. And so we made trips here and found family that I didn't know existed on my grandmother's side, and just felt so embraced again, that community, that sense of community, and being embraced by these family members that didn't know us but wanted to know us, and then by the village where we ended up buying a small house. So it turned into now 17 years.
Wow,
We've been
and then you've written a book. Your husband's got a book. So let's tell everybody about your book, and everyone. It's 52 Things to See and Do in
Perfect.
Basilicata. Am I saying that right?
Right. Exactly.
Oh,
That's perfect. And
okay.
Basilicata is the region where we live, where my ancestors came from. And I had looked, this was actually my COVID project because I noticed that there were no books at the time, in-depth guidebooks, actual guidebooks to the region of Basilicata. It was always included, lumped in with Southern Italy or Puglia and Campania or whatever. And there was very little dedicated to Basilicata. And it didn't talk about all these wonderful places that we came to love and know, and that are so culturally rich. And I thought, really deserved more attention. So I decided to write this book. And it contains a lot more than 52 things, because in each section I give more information, like while you're here, go to this place, or also visit
What would
another.
you say is the biggest draw to your area, other than it's
The
beautiful?
biggest draw, yeah, Matera by far is the city that's the best known. A lot of people think it's in Puglia because it's near the border of Puglia, but Matera is the oldest city in Europe, actually, and
Wow.
most people don't realize that. And it was the culture of capital of culture for UNESCO a couple years ago, and it's a truly beautiful, unique city. It's like carved into the hillside, into the rock, and so it's called the city of the rock. The Sassi is the historical section of the city, and it's just like undulates this ravine, and the way it was built into the um
Wow.
rock face is incredible. They excavated into and then built out of the rock face. And so it's
Wow.
just a really architecturally stunning and complicated city. And it's really beautiful. So that's the one that draws the most attention.
Now, what about the food? Is there food that represents the region itself?
Yeah, absolutely. In Italy, every region has their foods. And so that's a joy to travel around Italy, because every region has a different food. It's not boring because everything is a little bit different. So here in Basilicata, because it was a very poor region historically, one of the focus, like our pastas, our cavatelli and orecchiette pasta shape, and they're made without eggs.
Oh,
So that's really great. Whereas in central and northern Italy, a lot of times the pasta comes with eggs. So for vegans, they find themselves really happy here, because a lot of the pastas are made with legumes, pasta with
wow.
chickpeas. There is a very old type of legume. I don't even know what you could compare it to. It's called cicerchia in Italian, and I've never seen anything like it elsewhere, but that grows here, and it's not the same as a chickpea, but it's not the same as a fava bean. It's kind of a cross between the two.
Oh,
It's kind of a strange thing, but and then the other thing that's really ingrained in the culture that you only find in Basilicata is called pepperoni cruschi, which are crispy red peppers, and they're sweet. And when we first saw them hanging to dry, they looked like chili ristras from New
yeah.
Mexico.
You're back to New Mexico.
Right. We saw them hanging and we're like, wow, great chili. And we started asking about them, and they said, no, they're sweet. They're very thin walled peppers that they dry in the sun, and then you flash fry them in olive oil, and they become crispy, and they crumble them over these pasta dishes, and
Ooh.
yeah, over risotto or other dishes as well. And they're amazing. Or you can just eat them plain. They'll bring you a couple on an antipasto plate, and they're addictive. They're like chips that you can't eat just one. So
My gosh. So the food
they're
has got
wonderful.
to be great. I mean, is it kind because I feel like, in America, we've kind of lost our topsoil and our the taste of vegetables and fruits, depending,
Mhm.
unless you're going to organic or something really specialty, small farms that, well, that's why we want to eat local, sometimes even more than organic, right? Is
Right.
local because it's fresher, and you'll taste an apple right off a tree and it tastes like an apple. So
Exactly.
when you have that close proximity, is it like that there where the flavors are better because it's so localized?
Absolutely. And that's one of the joys here, because even though it's a mountainous region, much more so than a lot of places, there's a lot of mountains here, and then there's hills, and then just two little slices of seacoast, one on the Mediterranean and one on the Ionian. But along the Ionian coast, there's coastal plains, and it's sort of the bread basket, they call the fruit basket actually, of Italy. And so um, there's orchards with amazing, it's only an hour from us here in the mountains to get down there. They grow the most amazing strawberries that I've ever tasted in my life. They're so sweet and so fresh. And they actually ship them around. So a lot of the strawberries that you buy at a market in Rome probably come from Basilicata. Um,
Hmm.
because they're prized, and then just the fruits. But we're so lucky in the village where we live, everyone has their gardens and they grow their own food. So we are the happy recipients of all of our neighbors' produce. So they bring us everything that they grow, eggs from their hens, we had so
Wow.
much zucchini this summer, we didn't know what to do with it all.
It's a lot of
So,
zucchini bread coming up.
yeah, a lot of stuff that comes out, but, it's great because they wanna share what they grow,
Mm.
and, yeah, the apples right from their trees, and peaches, and I don't even know, everything that you can imagine, green beans and
Yeah, I just heard that Italy is like the soil is so good to grow, and
mhm.
then the climate. What's the climate like? Because you're in hillside, so you've got to have like kind of an interesting like microclimate per place. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly, so there are microclimates. Where we are, we're below the Dolomiti Lucane Mountains,
I'm
so
glad you
that's
can pronounce all of this the same.
it's a much higher elevation there, but we sit down below that, and so we're between, we're along the Pacento River, and then there's another river that runs below those mountains, and so we get this kind of microclimate in between the mountains and hills. So we don't get as much snow as the other places around, the other towns that circle us. And then you go down just a little bit in elevation, and that's where there's olive groves. We go down to the mill and buy the olive oil directly from the mill. So we get our
Wow.
bottles filled up directly from the press,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, it's amazing.
Don't they use olive oil also for their skin, not just for ingesting, but also for
Right.
topically as well?
Of course, it's a tradition. I actually learned that my grandmother used to do that because she would,
Really?
um, there was a where I grew up in Ohio, near Cleveland, and she would go into Little Italy and get the things that she needed to, to cook the Italian foods. And she always had olive oil. And so she'd pour some in the pan, and then she'd just kind of swipe a little bit on her fingers and on her face and on her
Oh, wow.
hands. So yeah, that's
So
what definitely. And you find a lot of cream products. So pharmacies here will make their own products. So you can get
wow.
creams and such that some of the pharmacies will make themselves. They're olive oil based creams and such. So it's,
Wow. So good for beauty, good for food. Well,
it's
healthy
so
food helps
good.
beauty, right? And so this
Yeah,
ties
both.
into your
It
ancestry
does.
too, which is so interesting. Like, but now wait, this is important. What about wine? Because I know that Italians that also moved over to the States knew how to do basement wine during certain times of prohibition, et cetera, right? So tell us about the wine side of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wasn't the recipient growing up, but my grandmother's brothers did have some of the grapes and grew the basement wine. They made their own wine. So yeah, they had
You
that.
didn't
There's
know I
a
was going to ask you this
tradition
when
still
you
there.
came on here. I
That's
want the
funny.
family secret.
But here we're also lucky in Basilicata because we have what is one of the most ancient grapes in Italy. It's called Aglianico del Vulture, and it was actually traced back to ancient Greece. So when this southern Italy was part of Magna Graecia, um, and it was a Greek colony, they brought these grapes over and started growing them. And so studies have been done that this is one of the most ancient grape varietals that you can find in Italy is Aglianico, and that the name actually even derives from Hellenic.
Wow.
Um, so it's at the base of Monte Vulture, which is an extinct volcano to the north, about an hour north of where I live, north of the city of Potenza, which is the regional capital. And it's an amazing red wine. It's one of the last to be harvested. It's a late harvest grape. So they're only harvesting like the end of September, beginning of October, sometimes later into October, depending on the climate and what the
Mm.
weather is done during the summer. It's very rich. They used to call it, like in the north, they would call it, oh, that's the Barolo of the south.
Oh,
But the south says, no, Barolo is the Aglianico of the north because
oh, okay.
the grape is more ancient. So
Huh.
it's very prized and a really beautiful wine, and a lot of vineyards that do it very, very well. So
Nice,
we're very
nice. See, like where you live, like how many people do you think live in these? I mean, is it small villages all within
lucky.
this region, or is the
Absolutely.
city like a city?
Yeah. So Basilicata, it's a very small region. It's made up of only basically two cities, Potenza, which is the regional capital, and there's 60,000 people. And then Matera, which is also a provincial capital. There's two provinces,
Mm.
Potenza and Matera. And Matera has maybe 50,000 people. So those are our cities. And then everything else are smaller towns. So the entire region has less than 1 million people.
Oh, wow. How nice.
So we're smaller towns, usually a few thousand people. The village I live in has 600. So
That and I'm amazed, like, and you have internet. That's the important thing, right?
I know, I know.
Yeah, because
We have
so
all the modern stuff, but we have everything we need for daily life in the village. And then the city of Potenza is only 20 minutes away, so we can go into the city and get stuff, that we
mm,
can't find necessarily in the village or for dining
yeah.
and whatever.
Are you
But
seeing a lot of Americans move to Italy? Because I know a lot of them. It seems
yeah,
like they fall in love, and then some are renovating and some aren't renovating. Everyone's got a different story, but, yeah, are you seeing that trend happening?
we are, and we see it a lot because of the genealogy research. So a lot of the
Oh,
people that
wow.
are contacting us to get research into their family history is because they want to try and get citizenship through their ancestry, and because Italy does allow what they call juris sanguinis citizenship. And so some are interested, they want to come and visit the places, then they fall in love with it and say, oh, well, we want to move here, even if we don't qualify for citizenship. And some are specifically setting out to do the research to be able to get citizenship to move to Italy because they traveled here. So we do see quite a few that have moved or want to move. And it's fun to watch our clients that our past clients, because we've been doing it for 10 years now, more
Mm,
than 10 years actually. Some will give us updates like, okay, we've moved here and we're living in this town and we love it here. And this is the best thing we ever did. And,
that's
or others are
awesome.
now planning, okay, 6 months, only 6 months to go and we're going to be there. So it's fun to see.
Does the genealogy work? And everyone again, your husband actually wrote a like a book for this, and so that it's really helpful for everyone. So it's Italian Ancestral Journeys, Italia Ancestral Journeys.
Yeah.
But and so what's great about this, because I was wondering about that when we do Ancestry, we go like to ancestry.com, all those places, right? And
Mhm.
what happens when it gets to Italy? Because of languages, and I mean, are you trying to contact churches from over here? And I mean, I almost feel like you do need to have boots on the ground to really do it
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah, there's some people that are really into genealogy research and then go to the family history libraries and they get the kind of guidance they need and go through it and want to do it themselves. And then there's some that they just get blocked because they don't know how to do the research here, where to look for the records. And it can be complicated based on where your family came from. So if your family's from the South, it's much easier because um,
Okay.
it was the Kingdom of Naples. So it was a separate kingdom. Italy, as we know it as a country, only became a country in 1861 with the unification.
That's right. Oh my gosh. You know what? That wasn't that long ago,
Mm.
if you think about it.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, we have millennia of history here based through the land of Italy, but Italy as a country that we know it is recent because they were different city states and different kingdoms. And so the South, the entire southern part of Italy was part of the Kingdom of Naples. It was ruled by the French or the Spanish, depending on, who was taking over. But when Napoleon took over, we have to be thankful to him for the one thing that he did was to institute the civil records. So civil record keeping was instituted under Napoleon, and the entire South kept that record keeping system even after Napoleon was deposed and the unification. They kept the record keeping system intact. And so it's an unbroken line, let's say,
Yeah.
for genealogy research. Whereas if you go to Tuscany and some of the northern regions, they got rid of that system as soon as Napoleon was thrown out. And so it can be a lot more complicated to find records because they don't have those in this town halls or, the civil records. It was all then sort of back to the church records, and some of those might have gotten destroyed in one of the many wars or disintegrated or flooding or whatever. So it can be more complicated. But in the South, generally, the records are available, and so that makes it
Okay.
a much easier process.
Wow. Wow.
But we do go to sometimes we try and get church records if we have to, or to get more information. that we're not finding. But civil records can be very detailed, and it'll tell you, especially like a birth, let's say a birth record, it will say this child was born to the name of the father, what his occupation was, the mother, what her occupation was, the ages that they were, where they lived.
That's
Usually it
helpful.
gives a street name, sometimes a number. Although a lot of times the street numbers can't be trusted now because they've been renumbered and changed. But most of the time we can track back to the exact street and almost the precise location of the house that someone's ancestors were born at, and the church that they were baptized in or married in, and it can be a really exciting adventure to do that journey.
It's kind of interesting because when you do, it's an ancestral journey, and then the fact that people are moving to it, it's like a full circle moment because
Right.
people moving out and then coming home, so it's like this full ancestral journey. What when you think of it, there's the travel part, the fun tourism side, but then there's this full circle for everyone, which is pretty. I feel like I always talk about this on shows that we have DNA and our
Mhm.
DNA has a sense of place, even if it's
Right.
passed down. And I don't know if like there's studies yet on this, but I do believe our bodies know where we come from. I do think
Mhm.
that in some way it
No,
has a magnet to it. You know what I mean?
exactly, and I was always drawn to Italy. My grandmother really instilled that in us growing up. We always had, obviously, Sunday was always gonna be spaghetti, and, she would make gallons of sauce, and, she just really instilled that you are Italian into us, and that was the kind of dominant culture, in my family. Um, Whereas my husband's family is German by and
Yeah.
large. The majority of his family, Schneider, is Germans. But I always just had this draw. I have a history degree, and so studying these places,
Oh,
obviously,
wow.
to Italy, and then just that draw of the like you say, your body just wants that.
German heritage connected as well. I mean, there is through history. So everyone, it is Italian American Heritage Month and German American
Mhm.
Heritage Month. So we're covering two things. We got it going on.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, yes,
I think it's
absolutely.
Family History Month. I'm not sure, but I'm making it up.
I'm not sure, but I know it's Italian American History Month, which is
I think
great.
every month is Family History Month because it's an addiction. It's a healthy addiction to
It
have
is.
is to start searching. But then you see, yeah, and that's the other thing is, are you finding when people come like you, right? Going to these places where your ancestors were, it gives you this idea of their life, especially when you can, like, these are historic places that have kept their sense of place in so many ways that haven't I know there's newness, obviously, but at the same time, you can truly imagine your ancestors when you go there, what it was like, and
Yeah.
even go like, I'm probably walking right where they were,
Yeah, and that was the most amazing thing. The first time I came to my, one ancestral town was, not only the beauty of the place and how it just felt timeless and almost stuck in time despite having all the modern amenities of life, but it also had the traditions. They maintain their traditions very closely, especially in the South. So, as we're walking down the street, a donkey comes across our path carrying wood because these hill towns are some of them are so steep. The only way to get things delivered is by, a donkey. And so literally this donkey was going across and delivering wood to someone's house. And we just stopped in our tracks and started laughing, like, I can't believe this is happening. Um, and
That's
they
awesome.
still, really maintain those traditions, and, I think that's something that's so beautiful. There's festivals that have been going on for 500, 600, 700 years uninterrupted. They still do them the same way as they've always done it.
Oh,
Celebrations, saint days, that kind of thing, and so it is beautiful. That is something that's, it gives you such a sense of place and sense of being, and, the other thing was we stopped in our tracks in the piazza. My mom, my sister, and I all just stopped and stared at this man that looked exactly like one of my uncles. And so the DNA literally is still from that place. Like, that place really
that's why.
is ingrained in how the people looked and how they carried themselves, mannerisms, different things that we just thought some of the things like my grandmother would always cut pizza with scissors. She had these really long scissors, and she always cut pizza with scissors, and we thought it was just like this weird thing my nana did. Well, we came here, and every pizza place that serves up by the slice cuts them with scissors.
That say about dough versus American dough, right?
Right, right, but that's
Oh,
what it came from here, so she learned it from her mother, who was from here, and it's one of those things that we just thought it was a weird thing that I
you
did,
do it?
and yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's listen. It's also pizza month. I happen to know this for sure.
Oh, okay.
Listen, to me, every day is pizza day. There is never a day that pizza isn't thought about, eaten. I mean, I'll have it for breakfast, and I do that kind of consistently. And
Mhm.
it's really good for breakfast. Just put an egg on top and let it be runny. And anyway, so sorry. I have a thing. I have a thing. So let's talk pizza. This is very important. This is
Yes,
the
it is.
International Food Wine Travel Show, you know.
It is.
So
Pizza is very
pizza.
important.
So the dough, for it to be cut with scissors, has to be completely different than what we're doing over here. A little thinner. Is it
Mhm.
chewy?
A little bit
What is the
crispier.
dough like?
So, well, we have 2 types in our region or these parts of the South. So it can be if you get a normal pizza, it's not quite as, runny as like a Neapolitan pizza might be in the
Okay.
center, even if they use a wood oven, it's a little crispier crust. Or they do a focaccia pizza that's thicker.
Oh,
So the and which my grandmother also used to make. She called it tomato bread when we were kids, and that was our snack. When we got home from school, she'd say, "Have a piece of tomato bread." But here the taste is the same, and it's like a focaccia pizza, and they cut the pieces a square off. Or the regular pizza, which you can get on any toppings that you'd like, and that's a little bit crispier, which I actually prefer to that kind of chewy crust. Yeah,
uh,
but
wow. So this is a good education. So pepperoni's still in there or no?
well, pepperoni in the Italian word of pepperoni, which is peppers. So if you order a pepperoni pizza here, you're going to get bell peppers or whatever type of peppers that region grows. If you want what Americans consider pepperoni, you have to order salami. So pizza
Mm,
con salami.
I
And
like that.
that's sort of,
Hmm.
yeah.
Are there any cooking schools near you? I mean, has your cooking changed having lived there
My
now?
cooking really hasn't changed too much because I had a lot of the recipes that my grandmother cooked, which are from this region. It's changed in that when we first moved here, we made friends with a couple in Rome who used to have run a restaurant, and they let us use their house in Anzio, south of Rome, for 3 months while we were getting acclimated and figuring out how things worked and going through our bureaucracy and he was a chef. He had a restaurant in Rome,
Wow.
retired, and so I learned also from him on a lot of things, like how to use leftovers and not just reheat them, how to remake it into something new, and, because in Italy, nothing gets wasted, and,
Ah,
so I learned the art of, creative leftovers from
oh,
Giorgio, and,
th-
yeah,
that's
how to create
fascinating, you know?
right.
And it seems like quality of life and like it doesn't seem so fast and I hate to use this word, but I'm going to gluttonous as we have become in
Mhm.
some places in life. It seems
Right.
like if you've got cheese, you're going to use that cheese. You're going to create everything
Mhm.
for that cheese, and you're not going to waste it. And when you eat, you're going to slow down. Is that a reality?
Absolutely, especially in Southern Italy. Lunch is the bigger meal of the day. So children go to school 6 days out of the week so that they're home. They get off at 1 or 1:15 and they go home and have lunch with their families. Most people get a longer lunch time. So stores close between 1 and 1:30 and some of the offices will close and then they go back to work at 4. And so families eat together for lunch for the most part. And so that's your bigger meal of the day is lunch. And so that tradition is still and then the kids do their homework and the parents either have to go back to work or whatever. And but that siesta that you would say in Spanish, here we call it reposo, is still part of the daily life here. And we adapted really quickly to that. Having a nice rest in the afternoon after lunch is great. Uh,
Wine at lunch? I'm just saying this could balance out pretty
Generally, yeah.
good.
Yeah, generally you would have a glass of wine because they say it helps your digestion and it enhances the meal.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I'm with that. It- Wow,
Yeah,
wow, what a wonderful experience. I mean, to
yeah,
go
it
from
was
being
a
a
nice
traveler
lifestyle.
there and it just kind of pulls you. And that's what I've seen with a lot of people. Once they start going, they kind of really get attached.
Yeah, because you feel like it is slower. It is, we might get really frustrated sometimes with the bureaucracy and all of the runaround that we might have to do to keep all our paperwork or do all of these things. And sometimes you might think it's too slow because you have a water leak and it takes the plumber forever to come or whatever. But then you go, oh, but look, my neighbor brought me all these vegetables and wine that they made and things that okay, life isn't so bad. It's okay
Just
to
have
live.
another glass of wine and you can have as many leaks
Yeah,
as you want.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that's how when we lived in Mexico and in Africa, it was like that. It was kind of chilled out and very reality based, you know. And
mhm.
people, when they get together, they're really like they're present. That's the thing. It's about being present. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, togetherness is very important to Italians, a sense of community. So people, especially, Tuscany might be different because everyone has the dream of the farmhouse if you right under the Tuscan sun, and Francis Mays is brilliant, and they bought that beautiful house, and there's farmhouses that you can stay in and around Tuscany, and it's people kind of dream of that isolated life, but that's not how it was in the South. People were farmers and they would go work the fields and they would come back to town. They lived in town together. They wouldn't live alone out in the countryside. And so when some friends of ours came here, their roots were in this region and they were looking for a farmhouse out in the country. And people would go, why? Why would they want to live all by themselves out in the middle of nowhere? Like they just couldn't grasp. Why wouldn't you want to be in a community?
Yeah.
And it might you'd be so lonely out there. And so that sense of togetherness is important.
Wow.
Sundays, my neighbors upstairs, their kids and grandkids come, of course, for lunch, and they gather together still. The entire family has Sunday lunch together, and it's still, yeah, that togetherness. So what's great about being in a small town is you don't have to make an appointment to meet up with people. For the most part, you can go walk down into the piazza and see who's out. Most people will come out right before dinner or after dinner and hang out. So you can meet up for a beer or a prosecco or a spritz, or you might just be down to run an errand, and people say, "Oh, hey, it's about dinner time. Let's go get a pizza together." And it's just great because that's one of those
Yeah.
cultural things. In the U.S., I'd be even now when I go back trying to get together with some of my friends and family. They're like, "Oh, well, I can't do it that day. No, that day's not good." So you're planning 2 weeks ahead, you know.
Yeah. So it's different.
And
How
yes.
how are they in regards to travelers coming into the area? Do they welcome tourism?
Absolutely. And it's very friendly here, the Southern hospitality. But anywhere in Italy, really. I mean, there's over tourism. Obviously, some of the cities are getting a little tired, and some
Yeah.
places get too much, and they're sort of at their wits' end about what to do with too much. That's not a problem in the majority of places because most travelers go to the same
Yeah.
places. Obviously the over tourism is very specific places. So, even if you go to a place like Tuscany, it's so well known, but there's so many places beyond Siena and Florence that you can go that isn't going to have that same
Yeah.
sense of like feeling over touristed. And where people really are welcoming and really want the tourism. A place like Basilicata or Le Marche that doesn't have the numbers, they're thrilled. And, especially in the South, because they're so hospitable. We have a saying here that hospitality is sacred, and they take that very seriously. So when we first moved here, they didn't know who we were. My cousins live in the next town over. And so we ended up buying in a different village from where my grandmother actually came from. But everyone noticed that we're here and, "Oh, did you buy that house? Oh, well, come in and have a coffee. Come in and have a limoncello that I make myself. Come in." People are grabbing you by the hand and they want to get to know you. Or travelers come and they'll say, if they see you on the street, "Oh, go up and see this beautiful overlook over here." So
That's nice.
it's and even in the cities, like Matera, they'll help guide you. They might take you by the hand, kind of like, "Oh, come over here. Yeah, this is what you're looking for." And so there is,
Nice.
I think Italians are very hospitable. almost anywhere you go.
I love this.
Um,
And I love that you're living there. I mean, it's the
mhm.
International Food Wine Travel Writers Association podcast here on Big Blend Radio. And you're really being part of that. I was going to say Italian. I'm going to say this.
Go,
Title.
yeah.
Yeah, you're putting the international into what they do because I know they have a lot of members, even like Canada, Australia, different parts of Europe. But you're really in that. So you've
Absolutely.
been a member for like over a decade now, right?
Right. I can't even remember when I first joined. I'm gonna be honest, I'll have
Yeah.
to look it up because it's been so long. So it's been a great organization to be a part of. We're, thrilled to be the international portion of International Food, Wine, and
Yeah.
Travel, and be able to provide that international glimpse and the insider glimpse into Italy. Because I've read so many articles, especially with the internet. I'm sure you've read a ton of articles of places that you
Mhm.
know really well or that where you live that you just go, "Yeah, they didn't even visit that place when they wrote that
Oh,
article."
the scalp. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because people just throw out articles, versus the integrity that comes with an organization like IFWTWA. So,
Yeah.
I think that being able to have that insider view and, not just having traveled here, but living here and having been a part of the culture and learning the
Mm,
history and learning the festas and why they do the things that they do and how they're done, gives you, more understanding. And it's great to be able to impart that to people. I love that
yeah.
because I did study history and I just think it's such an important part of.
But history comes alive when you go to the places and see it.
Mhm.
It really does. And I'm seeing more of the writers really sink into the history, and I think maybe didn't think they would be interested in the history until you get there. And then it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh, this really went down. This wasn't just in a school book. This is beyond. And I think that,
Right.
going places, and even through articles and having a personal experience like yours and reading books, there's this when it's that personalized, this is for real, like they've actually been there,
Hmm.
makes people, even if they can't go, it's like a virtual travel. You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
Right.
maybe if they never get there, at least they understand and have an understanding of the culture. So you're still broadening your horizons. Never as good as being there, but some people just can't. So I think that
Right.
we tend to always forget that part that I think travel writing is an art form and the arts. By the way, it's
Mhm.
Arts and Humanities Council month too.
You
I've
know
got the
all of them.
months.
That's good.
I'll just be a walking calendar. But
That's
the
wonderful.
arts, like we talk about it with our national parks, and artists go in, they do things, and their art transcends. And people who may never get to Yosemite National Park, for example, has an idea, they get an idea, the feel through art and music and
Absolutely.
storytelling. And that's what travel writing is. We're storytellers, right? And we get to, share the world with people that, yes, may pack their bags and ultimately go and may end up living there like you, to a place that they went to fall in love with. But there's this, if someone's researching their family history and ends up being where you are, your book's invaluable just to give them an idea of what life was like for their ancestors, you know?
Absolutely, and I did have, some great feedback on that when it came out. People that bought the book and said, "My ancestors came from this region. I can't travel there. I have this health issue, or I'm too old to travel alone, and I don't have anyone to travel with," or whatever the reasons are that they can't come on their own. But they said, "I really got such a sense of place and so much more in-depth, knowledge about the places and the festivals and the culture and the history, and that was very gratifying that they felt that and
Yeah.
sort of became part of their understanding of their family, so that was beautiful.
That's awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on this show. I'm so glad that we connected, and everyone go to myancestral.italy.com. And if you think about Italy, just always go Italia.
Oh, exactly.
And everyone, the links also for both of your books, you and your husband's books, are in the episode notes as well as your website. And you can also go to IFWTWA.org. All of that is in the episode notes, so it's easy just to click away. But thank you so much. And listen, go have some of that wonderful Italian wine and pizza for us.
I am, because my sister is here visiting right now. So, it's it's obligation. We have to be hospitable, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes. And I would like it with salami, please, the pizza.
okay, excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFWTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!